Hey, welcome back, Knicks fans. Yes, these fireworks here are for the New York Knicks, especially the youngest that are on the team. They were able to beat the Chicago Bulls yesterday. It was a pretty good win. It wasn't the best win of the season, but it was a pretty good win. And anytime they beat the Bulls, I'm always happy. I'm a little torn what they see. Sometimes I'm a little. Okay. I'm torn if the vets are playing and we're winning some of these games that we're kind of squeaking it by and it's not impressive, especially if it's against bad teams. But it's very encouraging when they're playing the young guys, and at least you kind of look for gives you something to be hopeful for, something to look forward to in the future, because we do have some really bright spots on this team, and just wanted to like talk a little bit about it today. Normally, I'm heavy on the stats and analytics, but today I'm going to talk a little bit about like we're going to do some speculation today. We're going to talk about some of the things we saw on the court behavior. We are going to still dive in heavy on the stats afterwards, but there's a few things that were just basically that happened during this game that I really feel like we should address. That I want to address. We're starting with the elephant in the room, and obviously the aim here is not to beat up on Julius Randle, but it's very difficult to ignore the attitude he has on the court. He just seems like he's not very interested, and it definitely something has gone wrong and something has broken, with him and with this team. And throughout the whole year, he seemed very distant. You can always see he wouldn't help guys out, help guys up from the floor when they fall down. Everybody always runs to their teammates, help them up. He's the only one that rarely does it. I think today, either today or yesterday was the first. I'm sorry, like the last game or a couple of games ago might have been the first time I've seen him do it. Like this whole season, he did help someone up recently. I don't know if it was this past game, the Bulls game, or if it was the previous game against the Detroit Pistons. However, it's just you can just see there's something wrong there, and he's just not having a very good time, especially when we're at the Garden. And so, and the other thing I did notice about this game as well was it felt like R.J. Barrett was really trying to assert control and basically take control of this offense and of this team, and you can just really see it. And some of the things that make me say that is there's been a few times Julius Randle has been he would try to call for the ball. RJ Barrett would not give it to him. Another perfect example was 3 minutes to go in the game. Julius Randle came into the game, and I think the coach wanted the play to run through Julius. I think one play Julius went over to get the ball, and RJ would not give him the ball. And then there was another play. I'm not sure if this was later in the same play or if it's a separate play after that, where the play where IQ essentially made the pass to Burks. It was another situation. I think he was looking for the ball there and he didn't get it. But I know especially one of them when he was on the same side with RJ, trying to get the ball from RJ basically ignored him, and he was kind of waving his hands to the sidelines like, "Yo, what's going on?" You know, and so it really just looks like RJ has just, I think he's taken his team from Julius. And there's obviously now the cat is out the bag, I think. Now it's clear there's something going on between both of them where they're just not getting along on a court. You can just tell that. They've done a good job not fighting with each other or arguing with each other. That's really good. And you kind of have to give both of them really good kudos for that, for not basically taking it that far. Because you can't, aside from the fact that RJ wouldn't give him that ball and he was waving his hands like, "Yo, what's going on?" You wouldn't even be able to tell that, like, really be able to tell there's issues. Although you can also look at the sideline, at the huddle, to see there's something going on. Everyone always sits together, no spaces between the chairs, and then when you see Julius, he's normally one or two. There's one or two chairs empty, and then he's off over to the right? And so it's really interesting to see that. It's almost like his body language just seems like he's done, he's given up. And he's almost like I remember I was saying it before that he was going to tap out and request a trade. I did a video where I talked about that, and it's too difficult. New York City is just way too difficult of a place to play, especially if you don't play hard. And they're not asking you to be a superstar here in New York. People kind of get have the wrong misconception about the city. You don't have to be a superstar to play here. The city just wants you to play hard. And the reason why they couldn't stand Randall, they started booing him was because he just wasn't hustling, especially on the defensive end. And you can just tell it's a lot worse when you watch the games in person. If you think it's bad on TV, you see it on TV and it's bad. Imagine being at the game and you're watching this live. It is insane when you see it. I've been to a couple of the games, and I've seen it. It looks really bad in person. It looks way worse than it does on TV. And so that's why a lot of the fans, like, they just lose it sometimes and they start booing, because it's like the craziest thing you ever see. He misses a layup, he doesn't get back. He takes his time. He turns over the ball, he takes his time getting back. So anytime something doesn't go his way on the offensive end, and something negative happens, he basically takes his time getting back on defense, and that always causes issue. And sometimes he even on the half court, when he does get back on defense, he kept getting beat backdoor. He keeps getting beat backdoor. He just seems very disinterested. And so, but that's pretty much the reason why the fans started to boo him. They, if you're going to be like that, they're not going to want you. And then these people pay a ton of money for these tickets. When I get these tickets, I'm sitting up in these way up there, usually in the cheap seats, usually when I get the tickets. And these are some rowdy crowds out there. They don't play, and they speak their mind. New Yorkers, they speak their mind, and they're very direct. They'll tell you how they feel in a drop of a dime. And so New York City is not the place to come half stepping. You can't half step here in New York City, and they can't see you half stepping, especially when they're paying that kind of money to watch these games. You can't do that. And so that's the reason why, I knew he was going to tap out, because there's nobody on this earth that can take that kind of pressure from this city. I don't care who you are. No one can take that kind of pressure, And so, that's pretty much what's happening. But RJ has taken over this team from RJ. He snatched it from RJ. And I think he snatched it from Tom Thibodeau as well. I think he snatched it from Tom Thibodeau because it seems like late in that game, they weren't even looking to the sidelines at all. They normally don't. But you can just tell IQ and RJ, they knew what they wanted to do, and they were just doing it. And if you guys notice, they're always talking on the sidelines. RJ I noticed he's always talking to Obi. So that shows one thing. I think if he had his way, he would like Obi to stay, because it seems like they're really working a lot on what they want to do, where they want to be on the floor. They're working on a lot of chemistry stuff. And the other person he's been talking to quite often is Mitchell Robinson. And honestly, Mitchell Robinson, I think that's the only hope we have for Mitchell Robinson to stay, is if they're able to convince, number one, the front office needs to pay this kid, right? You got to pay him. You basically underpaid him. Didn't even bother restructuring his contract or anything. I guess you don't have to, obviously. But either you should have locked this kid up early, especially last year, or, if you didn't want to lock him up early, you better make sure you give him what he deserves this year. This kid, you watch the way he played this game, it's unbelievable. This kid is playing championship level defense. This is the kind of defense you step into the playoffs and he's engaged. Forget it. You might as well just stay out there, because you're not coming inside the paint. That's the kind of defense this kid is playing. It is unbelievable. And I'm hoping that he's able to stay, because I hope he sees there's something special brewing with this team. I really do think there's something special brewing, because they have a lot of strong pieces in play. You got RJ Barrett. He's improving with efficiency. He's also much improved as a playmaker. You got Obi Toppin. I've been telling everyone this kid has got talent. He's not a bust, because he shoots to his efficiency is way too high to be a bust. People that are busts, they normally shoot below 40%. If he was a power forward who's shooting 40%, 38%, and you say he's a bust and I don't think he's gonna be good, then I'm yeah, fine. This kid is shooting 51, 52% from the field. That's not bust. That's like the kid has got talent and you just got to give him play time. That's what that speaks. And they got that Obi Toppin, you know. Of course, I talked about Mitchell Robinson. Then they got Emmanuel quickly. The kid is just like a microwave, He's getting better as a point guard. And then the other one that nobody's talking about, and I have to give the guy Raw credit for this one, is Miles McBride. He's been always right about this kid. And I'm starting to see it too because, number one, you see the way the kid played in the G League. He ripped up the G League. And you know what that means? What that means? It doesn't always necessarily mean like it automatically translates to the NBA. It will. It definitely will. Because the way he just ripped through the G League, G League, you can say G League, it's like one of the more competitive leagues that there's around in this world, right? Like there's the NBA, obviously. Then you can say maybe the Spanish league in Europe. I'm not sure if there's any other. I'm not sure how to compare and weigh the competitiveness of the other leagues, but I would say U.S. maybe the Spanish league, and then I'll probably say the G League. If you think about it, most of the talent that do come into the NBA, the only other place that come from either is like one of those European leagues like the Spanish league or the G League, and he just killed the G League. He graduated from the G League. And the way I saw him play earlier this year before Thibodeau just tried to snatch away his confidence, it really showed me that, that actually he was going to be really good on the offensive end. I'm not sure about him being able to break down defenses and get to the hole and get to the rim. It's something he needs to work on and something we still have to see. But this kid has got a really good jump shot. His three-pointer is pretty good. And his mid-range is really good. He's got a killer mid-range. I've actually watched especially a lot of his highlights from the G League. He's got a killer mid-range. And you kind of saw a little bit of it yesterday, too, during his game, only one time. But, they got something special. They have some really good young core. And then you got Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish is like I swear, he's like basically, I feel like he's the final piece to this puzzle. But he needs a lot of work. And the crazy part about it is, if they can get rid of all these old people and just force Tom Thibodeau's hand, I like the way he trains the young guys. That's the one thing I like about Tom Thibodeau. I like his approach to training the young guys. I like that he has a plan for them every summer. He makes sure he tries to force them to come to New York to work out. And if you don't come to New York and work out and you don't ball out, you're probably not going to play, because that's the one thing about him. And I'm not sure if that's right either. If you train somewhere else, you better come ready and you better basically ball out in preseason. If you don't, he holds it as a strike against you if you're a young guy who doesn't come to the facility over the summer to work with the coaches. Kevin Knox did that. Although Kevin Knox was sick with COVID, he wasn't sick with COVID the whole summer. He could have came up to work with the team, but he just never did. And so that's really what's going to harm some of these young guys. But with all that said, let's just jump right into these numbers. And we're going to, right off the back, I already ranked the metrics, the PIE with the defensive factor. And it's going to kind of help drive basically where discussion is going to go. And so, of course, on top was, let's look at the PIE with defensive factor first, and then we'll talk about the reasons why, what led up to this score for each individual. Obi Toppin was at 34.64, RJ Barry 27.37, Mitchell Robinson 24.02. Mitchell Robinson, this is one of those things where, honestly, I'm not even sure the PIE with the defensive factor really captures everything that he does, and how big of an impact he actually was in his game. So it's really interesting, right? And so, these are my numbers, and this is something that I made up to evaluate these players. And these are meaningful numbers. Like I said, I tested these numbers versus I basically used this same approach to test teams, to kind of do a power ranking for teams. And then I got every team in the NBA, I got all their win percentage, and then I ran a correlation test to see if there was a relationship between PIE with the defensive factor and the team's win percentage. And the correlation was like 0.93. And so that's very strong. That basically means there's a very strong relationship between this score here, this number, the PIE with a defensive factor and the team's win percentage. So it's just a way to let you guys know this is not something that I'm plucking out of the sky, stuff that I'm making up, and that has no meaning. These do have meaning, and the reason why I prefer the PIE with defensive factor over the regular PIE is because there's correlation between because the correlation for PIE with defensive factor and win percentage is stronger than the correlation with PIE and win percentage. And so there's a stronger relationship between this and winning than this and winning. And so let's keep going. Alec Burks was 17.88. Miles McBride was 8.94. Julius Randle 4.47. And the reason why he was only this high is because of, honestly, it was because of the fact that he had a ton of rebounds. I think he had like something like 12 rebounds, 11 defensive, something along those lines. And also he was effective on the defensive end. And the other thing I kind of realized, I remember Raw was saying is, at the power forward position, there's not a ton of competition, right? So Julius Randle is always going to be able to either, because power forward is usually limited offensively for the most part, so it's not going to be very difficult for him to defend other power forwards, And actually, that means also Obi Toppin is not going to be very difficult. Obi Toppin to defend other power forwards, but that's the reason why it's easy for him to always have a good rank, or at least to be positive. Because number one, he gets a lot of rebounds, and number two, his defense. It's always going to be pretty easy to play defense against other power forwards. And that's pretty much it. Emmanuel Quickly was a drag today, minus 2.23. Evan Fournier, minus 5.59. And Jericho Sims, minus 9.50. And so that's basically what the ranks were for this game in terms of most impactful. And Obi Toppin, the reason why he had the top spot is, number one, because his efficiency. He was shot 54% from the field and scored 17 points. But then on top of that, if you notice, opposition field goal, basically he did not allow the people, his matchup to score. Matchups only took 2 shots against him. They didn't make any. And so he was plus, the field goal differential was 54% for OB. And so if you combine his efficiency on offense with his good defense, I mean, he was... his net point per, he won his matchup by 17 points and was 55% more efficient than his matchups. And so, and field goal differential, he has 6 more field goals made than his matchup. So that's really what's driving him to the top here. Just a decent all-around game. The only thing I will have beef with is his rebounding. Only 2 rebounds as a power forward. If this team wants to move on from Julius Randle, he really is going to have to work on his rebounding. And he can rebound. I've seen him have double-digit rebounds. It's just something he needs to work on and find a good balance. He needs to find a good balance between leaking out for fast break dunks and finding a way to make sure, his team does secure the rebound. And we're a pretty good defensive rebounding team, so... so I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I think the other reason too, when he's coming off the bench, he's not really worried too much about rebounding. So I think if it was a situation where he had to take over, I think he'll be more mindful of making sure he helps his team rebound. RJ Barrett was 41.70% from the field. Still working on efficiency. I felt like he was trying to force things sometimes, and I felt like he was forcing things because he felt like he was trying to keep the ball away from Julius. In my opinion, that's what I was seeing. You guys let me know if you saw something different. He was 2 of 3 from the three-point line at 67%, which is excellent. However, the drive to the basket, I felt he forced it a bit. He has 6 rebounds overall, 3 defensive, 3 offensive, which is excellent. And 28 points on this game. And this plus-minus, he was +4. Okay, funny enough, what I wanted to say, Obi Toppin was a -2 on a plus-minus, right? but he won his matchup by 17 points and played good defense. Now, you tell me, what does this plus minus really mean for Obi Toppins? A lot of people sometimes depend on this plus minus. I mean, it's really good to identify like team chemistry. However, it's not always correct because sometimes you could be the one who's kind of holding it together for that team that's on the floor, and there might be someone else kind of like dragging, that's a drag on a team, that may affect your plus minus, and so, or it could be a situation where there might be one person. For example, if you look here, Julius Randle was a +7, right? And he essentially did not win his matchup. It was even. He was 22% less efficient than his matchup. And so it was like, if he was less efficient than his matchup, didn't outscore his matchup, made less field goals than his matchup, then what this +7 really means. So that means basically everyone else that was on the floor was carrying Julius Randle, and Julius Randle wasn't really, at least on the offensive end. Everyone else was carrying him, and but he did contribute defensively, so I can't lose sight of that. But in terms of the plus minuses, is if you notice, is like there's a lot you should have questions. You can ask questions about when you look at the plus minus. One of the biggest performance in this game, probably the most impressive to me, was Mitchell Robinson. I mean, he was just he was on another level today. It's like he basically would not allow Zach LaVine and the other guard, I can't remember his name, to basically come into the lane and do whatever they wanted. I mean, they had to get picks. They had to shield Mitchell Robinson for them to successfully come in the paint. So Mitchell Robinson did an excellent job protecting the paint. Also, he had 12 rebounds overall, 4 defensive and 8 offensive rebounds. And this is one of the reasons why we've been winning a lot of these games, is because of our rebounding, right? And Mitchell Robinson is a big part of that. He gives us second chance points, And so, because if you look, we shot 42.7%, and the Bulls shot 43%. So they were slightly more efficient than we were. But the reason why we're winning these games is because we got more chances at the basket. So because of the offensive rebound. So if you look here, we had 89 field goal attempts. They had 79. And why did we have 89? They had 79 is because of the offensive rebounding, number one, and then the turnovers. We had 6, and they had 12. So we were +6 on the turnovers. And so that just translates to more chances at the basket and more chances for us to score. And that's essentially how we're winning a lot of these games. And a lot of it, you have to contribute it to Mitchell Robinson. And so that's why I felt like, he's a big reason why we've been winning some of these games, because of basically how he controls the paint in the offense, in the defense especially, but also on the offensive end. He has 16 points, +10. And 33% shooting from the matchups. And he was 56% more efficient than his matchups. Opponents did score 17 points against him, so he lost his matchup by 1 point. But however, he was so way more efficient than the combination of all his matchups. And so the other person is Alec Burks. He had a very good game today. 47% from the field and 6 rebounds, which is really good. 27 points +10, and struggled on the defensive end, so he was less efficient than his matchups. He scored 27 points, but he gave up 34 points. And so the thing that's really interesting, I did see a lot of good things from Alec Burks on the defensive end in terms of team defense. But the problem with Alec Burks is once you isolate him, once it's basically man on man and he needs to stay in front of his man, that's where he really struggles. He just can't really do anything. And so that's why, a lot of times, these teams are going like, they go hunting. They go like Burks hunting, and they go Fournier hunting. And so today it looks like they went Burks hunting today. And, they got what they wanted. So Burks did lose his matchup by 7 points, and then also he was 15% less efficient. And he had scored 27 points in this game. So But it is what it is, and so that's why he was fourth place. That's why he wasn't higher, right? Because he was fairly efficient, but the defense just wasn't there for him. Miles McBride played a pretty decent game, but not really much to talk about. I did like how he was able to find a sweet spot where he took that mid-range jump shot. Very little steps on the offensive end. Oh, he had the nice touch pass too, but he's getting more and more comfortable, and I think we may see something special once as we continue to play him and as he continues to mature in his game. And so next person, Julius Randle. He had 13 rebounds, 12 defensive, which is really good. Struggle shooting the ball, but it's scored only 5 points. We talked about the plus minus for him already. He was allowed 33% shooting from his matchup. He didn't win the matchup. It was even. It was tied because he scored 5 points, and a combination in his matchup scored 5 points as well. And they made one more field goal than he did. So that was pretty much it. IQ, first game where he wasn't top three in his PIE with a defensive factor. His first time I think it's been at least a week. He's been top three for at least a week now. So Evan Fournier, minus 5.5. We already talked about him and Sims. Not much to basically talk about with these two guys. Actually, with Jericho Sims, it's he didn't play a ton of minutes, not enough to really hurt us. But there was a few times where he was really out of position, and it was like really glaring. And so he struggled a little bit today in this game with the minutes he did get. So hopefully it's just something he kind of learns and moves on, right? And so that's pretty much what I have, guys. This is what I have. I rank basically all the players by their contribution, by impact on the game. So let me know what you guys think. Please like, subscribe, comment below. I'll be more than happy to respond. Thank you so much.